Yo, I feel like talking my shit. I feel like talking my shit. I feel like talking my shit. I feel like talking my shit.
All right, and good evening, and welcome to the Aftermath. I'm your host tonight, Saul G, and this is the 50 Shades of Red podcast. I'm being joined tonight by my good friend, Mr. Jeff Charles, or as he's known on Twitter, Jeff on the right. How are you, sir?
Water time, my brother. I'm doing good.
You know me, I'm a pwn chummy. I like to get my waddles on the D. And if the people who don't know that, like we are branching out. We're not going to create another movement or anything like that. It's kind of like a joke, but we consider ourselves, I don't know if we're going with Pootie Servatives or Pootie Servatarians or whatever we're going to go with. But the more things that keep happening every day in this country, in the world, on Twitter, on the right, on the left, it seems like every single day you got to do something else to cause distinction because somebody will do or say something that you're like, nah, I can't be affiliated with those people. Oh man, she put up putty service. It's actually POTTI for the people at home. But yeah, Jeff, just go ahead and briefly tell the people who you are, what you do real quick, and we'll go ahead and get into
it. Yeah, my name is Jeff Charles, and I'm a writer. I'm a conservative journalist, basically, and I've written for a site called Liberty Nation. I write for them, and I just recently started writing with redstate.com. I'm a full-on contributor there now, so I'm going to be covering more stories. I'm going to be giving more commentary, and I'm still going to be pissing off a lot of conservatives and people on the left.
Yeah, I think that's got to be the good blend for, to me, this. Now, I don't like saying new because when people say like new conservative movement, I'll be like, yo, I've been here for 20 years. It just was never quote unquote fashionable to really like identify yourself, right? It's like, oh, I am a leaning conservative who normally vote. It only became popular 2016. And it wasn't even really popular during Obama. Let's just be honest about it. It really only became popular during Trump. So I think that part needs to be labeled out. But, like I said, I've considered myself, right-leaning conservative Republican since, basically 2000 when I went to school. So it's a situation for me where I'm like, the stuff that y'all are talking about, like when you try to talk to me about people I need to listen to or things I need to do as far as about being a conservative, it's kind of like, it's kind of sort of like, a rookie going up to LeBron, like, hey, when you shoot that jumper, man, make sure you keep your elbow in. You're like, what? Keep my elbow in? What are you talking about? I'm not saying I'm the LeBron of conservatism at all, but what I am saying is I have put in time. It's just, it only became like a thing to really speak about it. And in my opinion, it was almost like, like everybody has a platform now,
Right.
When Facebook came out, it used to actually be about people you actually know and about keeping up with family and friends, but now it's just a straight
people you like.
Correct. Now it's just a straight political timeline, just like pretty much Twitter. But like I said, I want to thank Jeff for coming on today. So Jeff, just let's get a little background, then we'll get right into the foolishness that we've been seeing. So how do you? I don't even want to get to how you identify, but like, how long would you consider that you've been quote unquote right leaning? Is it right curious Republican? I don't know
right
how. Right adjacent. Pan right, if that's the thing. How long do you feel like you've been somewhere in the mix? You know what I mean?
Yeah, you know what? I mean, I've been identifying as conservative. Wow. I'd say for a good 13 to 14 years or so. I was more on the Democratic side, but I was never like a far left type of person. Mm-hmm. This is during the Bush years when it was cool to hate Bush and all that stuff. And I didn't really like him either. I actually voted for John Kerry in 2004. But it was only a few years after that I really realized, I'm probably more of a conservative anyway, even though I don't agree with everything that the Republicans do. And it's interesting because I had sort of an evolution within being a conservative. So I was probably more of like the more traditional conservative. And then as I got older, I became a lot more libertarian too. And
Right.
sometimes it feels like, I was telling a guy last week, it feels like every day I'm becoming more libertarian. So I identify more as a conservatarian. So I'm on the right, but I do have a lot of libertarian leanings.
So basically, you just kind of just, I guess the libertarian leaning started to be like, you know what? And this is kind of how I feel like, you know, I progressed a lot as a, you know, a person on the right as well, because I feel like as we went through the 90s, right? Like when Bush got elected, I was just like, okay, cool, Bush got elected. We're done with Reagan. And it's like when I was a child, I didn't think left or right about Reagan. Then when Clinton got elected, I was like, yo, who's this cool playing country white dude playing the saxophone? I was like, oh, okay, right. This dude's pretty cool, right? Then it was all of a sudden, you know, because of the 90s and all the jokes and everything, it was like the blue dress came to the forefront of everything. And I'm like, yo, I even like this guy even more if he's getting this kind of activity in the office. You know what I mean? Like, I really like Bill Clinton, right? So then it was like, you know, I went to HBCU. I remember the whole Florida recounts and Kerry and all that type of stuff. So I remember having my freshman orientation, and they was like, we don't have any Republicans in here. And I was like, my girl was like, don't do it. She was like, do not do it. And I just looked around. I was like, damn, nobody else voted for Bush in here? And I was just like, well, shoot, I'm just going to sit here and be quiet then. You know what I mean? But it was something that, like, at that point, it wasn't where it is now. Like, I mean, I still had a very productive social life while being firmly on the right, but it was a situation where it was almost, to me, I felt like it was more of a, like, the only term I could think of is like closeted, right? Like, it was like people could tell if they talked to you, like what your political leanings are, but you didn't have to fully come out like, yeah, I just want to let everybody know I voted Republican. You didn't have to do all that because they pretty much know, you know. So what I want to first start talking, I want to get your opinion on, would be this political parties in 2020. And what I'm seeing is, you know, me and you, and I believe you don't like the plantation talk, correct?
No, I hate it.
Okay. All right. So I just want to make sure before I start, I don't want to assume. I want to make sure, like I said, quote unquote, on the record that this is something that we both like, just, it's just the worst, right? So how I am looking at the Republican Party now is a lot of the new Black conservative movement, they love to say, oh, you know, Black people on this Democratic plantation, correct? But then because they can't, they're stuck and they can't move to the middle, or they can't go to the Republican side. And I'm sitting there thinking to myself, well, let me take a deep breath and let me look on the other side. And what I see on the other side is the same entrenchment. And I'm like, well, you're not as flexible as you're asking the Black Democrats to be. So if we have Republicans that are going to entrench themselves on the right and only vote Republican, no matter what policies, what president, what political leaders, politicians, representatives are running, no matter what happens, they're so afraid of what the left might become. Then it's like now we've got two sides that are basically entrenching themselves. So what do you think about that, or what do you see?
Yeah, I mean, and it's kind of it's getting to a point to where it's getting scary to me. I mean, there was a time when Democrats and Republicans weren't that far apart when it came to their beliefs. We talked a little bit about that. I mean, I remember somebody talking about JFK and Richard Nixon arguing about how to address communism, totalitarianism. And the only place where they disagreed was the best way to destroy it. Nowadays, it'd be something totally different. And I think we've gotten into this team sports mentality when it comes to politics. So behavior that you will condemn on the other side, you'll excuse on your own side. And I think a lot of it is being fed by the media through fear, which I think that in certain instances, the fear is warranted. But at the same time, it's kept us from being able to have normal, rational conversations, at least when it comes to being in the media and being online. I think for the most part, normal people from both sides can sit down and have a conversation, even if they disagree. I don't think it's as divided as the media wants us to think, but the media is trying to move us to that point. Last weekend, I covered the protest in Austin where President Trump came to speak to the Farm Bureau. And there were leftist protesters. There were tons of MAGA people too. Austin is a blue city, but it's a blue city in Texas. So you had a lot of people from both sides. And in some instances, I can see people, having rational discussions or debates. They got heated, but they weren't to the point to where you were afraid that a fight was going to break out.
Correct.
But I think what's happening is that it is becoming more polarized. I think a lot of this, I think the conventional wisdom is that the right is going more towards the right, the left is going farther towards the left. The studies actually show that the right has pretty much remained stagnant, and in some instances, they've gone a little bit to the left, and I think that's the libertarian influence that you're seeing on the right. But the left is in a war right now, because in the Democratic Party, you've got the progressive wing going to war against the establishment wing, and I think a lot of people don't really pay attention to this, but I do because I cover it a lot. And you have like the AOCs going against the Joe Bidens, and they just did a study recently where the number of Democrats that actually identify as liberal, that's starting to slow down. And you're starting to see more people who identify as more moderate. And basically, it's kind of it's kind of a weird situation that we're in right now.
Right, and see, that's one of the things that I would say if I'm sitting back and I'm looking at what's going on in politics, and like you said, this is the scary part to me because there's so many people that like to push what I say this foolishness, right? It doesn't matter which tent you try to fall up under. If you don't call it out when it shows its head, then it's a situation where you're going to have to support some bull crap that you're eventually not going to want to have to deal with it. So the way I look at it is like this, right? Because I have, like I always tell people, the majority of my friends are Democrats. So when we have these sort of conversations, a lot of the people I talk to, they're not with a lot of the quote unquote LGBTQ agenda, right? That is a part that, especially like a lot of the black people, especially your quote unquote black church folks, they're not really going for that, but somehow the Republican Party still can't reach them, right? So it's like they continuously keep voting Democrat as some of this stuff is just keeps getting pushed in. It keeps getting pushed in. It keeps getting pushed in, right?
Yeah.
And then it's like, but voting Republican isn't a choice. Then we go on the right? And it's a situation where you'll be sitting at home and all of a sudden the news will be like, white nationalist runs for Republican office, and you're like, what? Are you serious? Like, come on. But then then they'll be like, oh, well, he didn't get approval. It doesn't matter. He felt comfortable enough to do that or whatnot, right? Or it'll be something really extreme. And what I keep trying to tell people is that's the reason why, like, people can actually come out and say, oh, I'm a socialist and it's no problem. Like, this stuff would have, like, the CIA knocking on your door in the 1950s. That's what the entire Cold War was. That's what Vietnam was fought over. That's what Korea was fought over. Like, this socialism, communism, because like if they say socialism, but it's basically communism, but they're saying it's socialism now to make it a little bit more appetizing for people. Like, I feel like, what if AOC and Bernie came out and said, I'm a straight communist? Would people still vote for him, or would they even care? Because where we're going right now is Republicans are not moving. Democrats aren't moving. So the point is, if you're somewhat moderate or you're somewhat of an independent in the middle, leaning to whichever side that you fall or you most closely identify with, we're putting ourselves in a very scary situation because a lot of people like to give us a lot of flack on Twitter because we go after in my opinion, I go after mostly conservatives and people on the right. Let me tell you why. Because that is the house that I normally deal with.
Right.
So it doesn't make sense for me to do the same thing everyone else does and support everyone else that everyone else does, because then it makes it seem like, you know what, you're just another puppet that is being controlled by one side or the other. I think the left needs to do a better job of not just accepting everybody, kind of hook, line, and sinker. And then some people are. But the other thing about it is, if you look at the right pundits, right, there aren't really any like comparable like left pundits who are technically on the same like level as some, like, let's say, like, if we compare the black conservative movement to the black liberal movement, like, who is, let's just go ahead and start from the top, who would be the Candace Owens of the left? And it's like you sit there and you think back, who is someone who is just so this no more malarkey, no more malarkey. We're Biden all the way. Who is that? Who is the equivalent of this new thing that's created on the right? Where is the left's equivalent to that? Right? Because when I'm looking, I'm sitting there thinking like, okay, we can go in the media and you can say like, he used to be, what was the guy on Fox News? He was on like the 3 o'clock hour. Shoot, I can't think of his name. He used to be on Fox News for like 3 o'clock. He would be like the right equivalent technically of like a Anderson Cooper, right? Because they both play on that same team and everything like that. So they would have been the same. Yeah, Seth Smith. Yeah, correct. Shep Smith. Yeah, Shepard Smith. Yeah, correct. Mm-hmm. So they would kind of sort of be like the parallels in the media that you could see, right? Then you could say like your Thomas Sowell would be your maybe Dr. Cornel West kind of sort of, because they're supposed to be like the black intellectuals, yeah. Right? They're not like Dr. Cornel West is a brilliant man, even if you disagree with him politically, right. But he's never really going to get super emotional the same way with Sowell. He's going to basically give you his point and kind of sort of do it like that. But then once you get out of the major media and you kind of go to pundits, CJ Pearson, Eagles and Don Lemon. I don't know about that one, dude. Well, I put it like that. We got Greta Thunberg, and then we can either go CJ Pearson, like maybe that'll be an equivalent. Greta Thunberg versus CJ Pearson. However, there aren't any like young black liberals doing this type of stuff. There aren't any black liberals who aren't already kind of in the establishment media that have what's beginning on the right. So
yeah, but the thing is, the left doesn't really need it. I mean, they've already got the black vote. So and they do have people like Jamel Hill, and they have like Tamika Mallory from the Women's March. So they do have prominent black activists that are out there. But I don't think that the left is really going to have.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Probably because they're when it comes to messaging, they're a little bit smarter than us. So they know better than to have somebody like a Candace Owens on their side, because they're not going to have somebody who's really going to alienate people. And like I said, they don't really need it a whole lot.
Right, but then the other thing though, and this is the one thing that I always try to, when you try to have these conversations with some of these conservative people online, I always tell them, who is your message for, right? If I want to go talk to black Democrats, my messaging cannot be the same for people who already think like me. So the messaging that they have is so bad, it just basically just works. Oh, conservatives all agree with the message, but then when they go to the other side, they're like, nobody agrees with them. Nobody listens to them and nobody takes them seriously. And it's because their messaging to me is so bad and it's so far off of where they need to be trying to reach. That's another reason why I feel like the left Democrats, what the hell do they care about people like us for? Right? You don't have no random black person on Twitter saying, hey, y'all, we need to go save the last 5% of black people who are voting Republican and Democrat, y'all. We got to go get them. No, because we're so, like I say, we're so insignificant and so irrelevant. It's the point where now, but the difference between black people on the right and the left is advancement is so much easier on the right than it is on the left. Like you can be a nobody yesterday, and then you can do something stupid, say something stupid, put on a stupid hat, and then all of a sudden, look what happens. 100,000 followers, 10,000 likes, and you're being sent to the White House or going to go speak on something, and you didn't do anything like that was either deep. It's just like, oh, I can put on a hat. Look at me. I'm black with a hat on. Please send me money and send me across the country.
But here's the thing, though, because you would think that the Republican or the conservative powers that be in the GOP and in conservative media, you would think that they would want as many black voices as possible on their side talking about their ideology. But you're right. You can get elevated pretty quickly if you're black and you put on a MAGA hat. But there's a formula. There's a formula to this. They will only elevate certain types of black faces. You're not going to see somebody like one of us on a Fox News, because they don't want to hear what we have to say. They want a specific message, and that message is the same one that they've been going on about for 60 years that hasn't worked. It's really a message not for black people. It's a message for white conservatives. Well, I'll say conservatives in general, because there are black conservatives who love that message. So to me, at this point, it's hard for me to believe that it's an accident, because you've seen us fail for 60 years and you're still doing it. Mm-hmm. So that tells me this is more on purpose,
right?
Because you don't want to put somebody like a Sunny Johnson on your programming, because you know she's going to say some stuff that goes against your narrative,
right? And
so that's the problem. And there have been people who have figured this out, and they're basically saying, hey, this is how I can get elevated in the conservative movement. And I'm not saying that most of these people don't believe what they say, but at the same time,
I will.
Well, that's fine.
I will say that 75% of the people who are elevated in the black conservative movement, I'll say on the black side. On the black side, I feel like there is a lot less people believe in it, and it's more or less like they're doing it for, like I said, money, exposure, clout, whatever the case may be.
Yeah, and that just kind of shows you how depraved the whole thing is, because none of these people are really going to make a difference. And here's the interesting thing about the whole MAGA part of it. Like, Trump is a disruptor. He came in and disrupted the Republican Party because he's anti-establishment. So these MAGA people, or I'll say MAGA zealots, because what I'm about to say does not apply to everybody who's MAGA.
Correct.
The whole MAGA thing was supposed to be a response to the left, but also to the establishment GOP. But when it comes to the black community, MAGA is just about as establishment as Mitt Romney. So they're still spouting those same talking points. And as much as they want to talk about free thinking, well, wait a minute, you don't really even know what you're talking about, because if somebody like you or I wanted to get on one of their platforms, we'd have to say certain things that we know we don't agree with. I mean, there's been some that we've known, some that have DM'd with some of these people where they were told, yeah, you can join up with us, just don't criticize Trump.
Correct. And
so black conservatives are supposed to be a monolith, is basically what you're saying.
Right. And this is the other part that kind of gets thrown into it, which I will give credit for. And a lot of people don't see it. And this is why, like, I always tell people, when it comes to Trump and when it comes to the Republican Party, they're two different things. What Trump does, that ain't applying to the Republican Party. The problem is, Trump, if the GOP was doing what Trump does, then I feel like we would start to see it eventually. It's not going to happen in one election. But if the Republican Party was like, hey, we need some black councils. What can we do to get your vote? We need to get some, like, people together. Let's get some black conservative, blah, 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 blah. If we can get all these things together and it's a GOP thing, it's not just Trump. Because what I keep trying to tell people is Trump is temporary.
Yeah.
So if you thought, like, what I keep trying to tell people is, like, I know some of my friends and stuff, they got the Obama picture up in their house, and that's fine. But what I am saying is, you don't see some people still got the bumper stickers. That's fine too. Yeah. But I don't think, like, people now are like, yeah, change, change we can believe in. When they go up, they're not really doing what I feel like MAGA people are going to be doing probably maybe for the next 12 years or so, until it's eventually like, yo, Trump's gone, or maybe even past, like, yo, we gotta do something else. Because I think the part that scares me, and this is the point that I really wish that the Republican Party can understand. Trump, I agree, was an incredible disruptor in Washington, the world, and especially the Republican Party.
Yep.
But the problem is, when Trump goes, that is going to leave a huge void in the Republican Party. And all of these people who have been riding Trump's coattails to get in office, once he leaves, the motivation is over. So you're talking about, I honestly believe, like, if the GOP doesn't do something soon to balance it, because I'm never one for, I don't believe in super majorities. I'm not a big fan. I would hate to see if every Republican won everything. I would hate to see if every Democrat won. I like balance. I like for the power to switch. So that way, you know, it at least feels like we kind of holding somebody accountable. Right. But if they don't fix this before Trump leaves, that black hole he's about to put in the Republican Party is going to give the Democrats a supermajority.
Yeah, it is. I mean, and that's one of the reasons why I focus more on the GOP than on Trump. And I have to remind people over and over again, because I'll talk about, well, what's the GOP doing to reach out to black people? Well, Trump's doing this, and Trump. I didn't say Trump. I did not say Trump. I'm not talking about Trump. He's actually trying more than his predecessors did.
Correct.
I'm talking about the Republican Party, the former party of Lincoln. What are they doing other than what they've always done? And just sit back and ignore the black community and pretend like they're all brainwashed, that there's no chance. They do that to distract from the fact that they're not even trying to reach out. And to me, this is of the utmost importance, because people might make fun of it, but people on the right most take socialism seriously. We don't want to become a socialist nation. And I've been saying this a lot lately, but if the GOP or if the conservative movement does not bring more minorities into the fold, the United States is going to become a socialist nation. I mean, if we look at who do we complain about the most? We complain about Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, Rashida Tlaib, Ayanna Pressley, Ilhan Omar, socialists, Bernie Sanders. So in these districts where these 4 women got elected, were these rural districts out in Iowa with mostly white voters? No. Were they in the suburbs? No. They are in areas that are populated mostly by minorities. And these 4 individuals, and more than them, they are currently on the warpath against the establishment in the Democratic Party. They're primarying Democrats who they think are too moderate. This could happen. And now, for all I know, the establishment might win that battle, at least in the short term. But they're going to keep trying and trying and trying.
Right.
Where do the conservatives step in and say, hey, you've got people on the left here using more government and promising you that the government is going to do all this, that, and the other. Here's what we're selling. Here's free enterprise. Here's free markets. Here's liberty. Right. Here is getting out of your way so that you can come up. We're not doing it. And this isn't just with the black community. It's also with the youth. The outreach is dismal. It's appalling.
Correct.
And it's important that we fix this now, like you said.
Right. And one thing that I want people to understand is once it's gone, it is not really going to come back. And that's going to be the problem, because the Democrat Party is never going to, because what you're going to end up having is everything is kind of sort of always going to restore itself to somewhat of an equilibrium. However, now those conservatives and Republicans are going to be your moderates, right? So you're just going to have moderate Democrats that are going to be functioning in the same level, if you will, of where the Republicans will. Now, you can say that's a good or a bad thing. I say the Democrats are very together, and there aren't too many that stray off of the script. Pretty much, they all stick to the same dialogue. They pretty much repeat the same talking points, the same way. The Republicans, not so much. And I think right now, to me, the Republican Party they have to, because if they don't, then this is where the country can actually start to take a turn. And I think a lot of people don't understand, like, if you talk to somebody and you go talk to anybody who owns a black business, like, I honestly think if somebody like, I like Killer Mike, don't get me wrong. He's a Bernie supporter. I go
he's a capitalist.
Correct. My barber, you know what I'm saying, works for underneath the brand that he has called the Swag Shop. So he has like these barbers shops across Atlanta, even in the Hawks arena, called the Swag Shop, right? So that's where I get my hair cut, whatever the case may be. So if I go and somebody says, hey, did you know the guy that you're voting for, all your private enterprise and things that you're trying to do would now be government control underneath this system? Is that something that you would like to do? Or is that something that you're for? And I think I'm not going to even say that he doesn't get it, but I think like there are aspects of what Bernie is quote unquote trying to do that are appealing. But I think some people don't realize when we start talking about government control, enterprise, when we start talking about the government control and private industry, I think we have a big problem. And like I said the other day, I had told somebody this, and so far, nobody thinks it's a bad idea. And I was just like, well, I'll ask you a question. Okay, this is dealing with healthcare. And then we're going to start going down some of the other topics, right? I said, to all the people who feel Medicare for all is a good thing, why don't the U.S. government offer an Americare, right? And they put it in the marketplace and they offer it right alongside your Humanas, your United, your Blue Cross Blue Shields, your whoever else you might have insurance from, and they put it in the market. They make it affordable, and whoever wants that insurance can go get it. Because that way, what I tell people is, if we go to Medicare for all, there is no coming back. It's over with.
Right.
Like, once you put it in, guess what? Blue Cross, you're done. Humana, you're done. United, you're done. Like Bernie already said, we're going to give you 5 years of income and whatnot to get yourself back on your feet. But everybody in the insurance sector, you're over and done with. And I keep saying, why would you want to do this? Because it's okay to say, well, yeah, we have universal health care. That sounds good. But my question to you is, what if you're wrong? And then I follow that up by saying, right now in 2020, what does the United States government do well? And it's silence. It's
crickets.
Silence. Do we do anything well? Like, it's like we've been fighting for civil rights for how many 70 years? We still fighting for them, so we don't do civil rights well, right? We've been fighting to try to fix whatever healthcare has been going for this long. We don't do healthcare right. Even in the Obama, the Affordable Health Care Act, it didn't work. It didn't work. You understand what I'm saying? The only thing to me that we technically do somewhat well is our infrastructure is pretty decent compared to other countries, and the military, because I want to say, we can still blow everybody up. You understand what I'm saying? We're still pretty efficient at, we're still pretty efficient at war. But if you're not in the military and you're just an average citizen, you're basically want to entrust something that's going to take 60 to 70% of your income. It's going to put a cap on how much money you can accrue until they're going to start coming in and taking more of your money. And you're going to trust that to a government that we already say 90-something% of the politicians are stupid and just pandering. The government is corrupt. We have all these 3-letter organizations who spy on us. You want to give those people more power. It doesn't. And now it's like, if I'm somebody who's on public assistance, I got Section 8 housing. Okay, so now they control where I live. I'm on WIC. So now you control what I eat. And if I get sick, you control how I go to the doctor. Like, to me, it's insane.
Well, I think people aren't really thinking that deeply into it. They just say, oh, everybody will have health care. Everything will be beautiful. They just think that it's just going to work out because the people that are selling this aren't really telling them what they're going to do. I mean, you mentioned it earlier, Blue Shield, gone, whatever other insurance company, gone. Really, what's gone is choice and the freedom to choose what insurance you want. The more government has control, the less of a choice that you have, the less freedom you have. And I think that's what the right has been really, they've been really inept when it comes to getting that message across. We know how to bash socialism really well. We've got that down. But when it comes to selling the free market, we're not doing so well at that. I mean, and part of it, I mean, and just to cut some slack a little bit, the left does have control over the institutions in the country that are responsible for disseminating ideas. They've got control over the entertainment industry. They've got control over the learning institutions. So that is a hard battle. But we've been able to subvert a lot of the media through the internet, through alternative media. So we really need to get not just the attacking. Yeah, we do need to attack, but we also need to get our messaging on point when it comes to selling what we're offering. I mean, one thing, I've been in sales pretty much all my professional career. And one thing that they always say is, when there's competition, you don't bash the other company. You come and tell the customer what you have to offer and why it's better. Now, in politics, it's a little different. So we do need to attack the other company. But if we're not selling the alternative, they're going to go for the socialism. I mean, that's just the way it is. I mean, even if we're talking about how Black America has been with the two parties, like back under FDR and Truman, they always love to say, oh, black people just wanted free stuff, so they went to socialism. No, that's not the truth. FDR offered socialism. That is true. He offered socialistic policies. The reason that black people went to FDR is because the Republican Party refused to provide an alternative. They refused to go and say, no, this is what we have to offer. This is how we'll help you get you to where you want to be. I mean, that was under, Herbert Hoover with his lily white republicanism.
Correct.
But that's the thing. They tell only one side of the story. Oh, no, it's just because they offer socialism. That's it. No, there's another side. And we're making the same mistake now with the rest of the country. Correct.
And I fully agree with you, because one thing that I am going to admit, and that's why I say, to me, you're starting to see the maturation process of some people on the right, because certain people are starting to come out and do some things that were normally not acceptable on the right. Like as far as being quote unquote pro-black, right? Like before, you need to be pro-American, right? You can't be pro-black and consider yourself a conservative or a Republican. You understand what I'm saying? So we are seeing people are like, and this is what I always told people, and this is the funny thing, and this is how I can prove that all the messaging doesn't make any sense. If it's real and if it's genuine. Mm-hmm. If it's real and it's genuine, and we're going to go get people who have been voting Democrat all their life, right? Generationals of Democrat. Those are the same people that you say always march. Those are the same people that yell and scream when there's a police shooting. Those are the same people that started Black Lives Matter. Those are the same people that was on Twitter and every other social media bucking during the whole Kaepernick situation. So why do you think just as they check a R, they're just going to shut up? And they're not going to be like, yo, what's up with all this white stuff over here? Yo, why the hell are y'all saying all this dumb shit? Like, why would you assume just because they say, hey, you know what? I buy into what you're saying, but it doesn't require a full conversion of who I am as a person to check that box. And I think this is what Republicans and conservatives need to lose. If I can go talk to somebody and say, hey, look, I think you should vote, not necessarily think you should vote, because I don't never like telling people how they should vote. I'll say, hey, look, this is, like you said, this is what I'm offering, you know, because, like I said, I mean, it's pretty much, when I have to go out, because I'm going to be doing some campaigning here pretty soon, but I'm running as an independent, so it's completely different. I have more leeway and room to do whatever the hell I want to do. I can go out and say, I don't have to be negative towards John Lewis. I don't have to say anything the contrary about the man. I don't have to bash him. I can thank him for paving the way for me. I can thank him for all he's done for the civil rights movement. And I can just basically, like I said, hey, look, but I think it's time for him to focus on his health, and it's time to pass the torch to a younger generation so we can actually get some good policy done. Here are my policies, X, Y, and Z. It's a much better message, and it's open, versus you're on a plantation, you're brainwashed, you're this, you're that. Hey, MAGA. Hey, look at my hat. Make America great again. It's not going to work. You understand what I'm saying? And I think that's the problem that a lot of people don't want to focus on. But that's what I keep trying to tell people. What did you think when, quote unquote, like when the slaves got off the real plantations back in the day? Do you think they weren't bucking? Do you think they were just like, oh, well, like, I guess they just want us to go over here? So no, they was fighting back. Yeah. So you can't expect for a behavior pattern to go, and then all of a sudden they just be waving the American flag off the day after slavery, like, hooray, we're Americans. It doesn't work that way. So I think the conservatives and Republicans need to start messaging Black people. They need to start messaging minorities. And it's not about a full conversion. That's what people need to understand. Conservatism, the right, being a Republican, is not a religion. You don't need a full conversion. All you need is a box checked. That's it.
Yeah, so here's some stats for you. When they did a recent poll of Black voters, only 29% of Black Democrats call themselves liberal. 43% of Black Democrats identified as moderate, 25% identified as conservative. That is proof that Black people can vote for a party without agreeing with every single thing that they stand for or every single policy or platform position. And it's like among the conservative movement that basically brands itself as this is where free thinkers are. We want diversity of thought, not diversity of color, just diversity of thought. Well, no. These are people who think differently, but agree with you on key issues. They bash people like T.I., like Nipsey Hussle. Oh, they do that hip hop music. Okay, but they believe in the free market, though. Isn't that kind of one of our core tenets? They agree with us on that. Can't we relate to them on that level?
Well,
I mean,
can they be like Kanye and put the hat on first?
That's the problem. Yeah, I'm like, if these people put the red hat on, you'd love them. They could be full out socialists, and if they put on the red hat, you'll love them. Because right now we're not sticking to our principles. We're about personality over principles. We need to be about principles over personality. So if you've got somebody like a Jay-Z, who probably, if there weren't issues in the Republican Party, would probably be more aligned with us, then we would finally get it. But the problem is that we want them to agree with every single thing that we say, or we want their culture to be exactly the way we think it should be. Jay-Z should not have to be Larry Elder for Republicans to deal with them. That is ridiculous.
And see that, and that kind of go ahead. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, you're good. Go ahead.
Well, and that's what I was going to say, because that was what I was going to go towards the box that they try to fit, the quote unquote black conservative or black Republican in. It's like, if you don't fit that box, then it's like people think you're liberal, and you're like, look. And that's what I said. Like, I'll put it like this: when I started, I knew that when it came to voting or whatever the case may be, I would just kind of look at the candidate and I'd be like, okay, which one, this looks like some guy I would have voted. I couldn't vote for Clinton, but I probably would have voted for Clinton. So it's like when I sit there and I kind of go back over how I've sort of grown in my political beliefs, like since Trump, I remember when he first was elected, I was happy. I was like, yes, Hillary didn't win. Yeah, everybody's happy, right? And then I kind of turned around. Everybody's like, yo, what the hell's wrong with you? You just realized Trump got elected. I was like, hell yeah, it ain't motherfucking Hillary, right? Like, that's a good thing, right? Y'all was with Bernie, so y'all shouldn't. Yeah, but Trump is worse. I'm like, wait, what? So then it was like, oh, okay, so y'all don't like Trump? All right, cool. I'll just kind of back up a little bit. You know what I'm saying?
Like a Homer Simpson gift where he's like,
yeah, it's like you just backed away, like, oh, okay, cool. So then you type something on Facebook like, hey, Trump cut taxes. Taxes went down. It's a good thing, man. That was for the rich and blah 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 and blah blah blah. And you're like, okay, well, I think I'm looking at it. It says in 2016 that if you were in this it went down. Nah, that was just for the rich, man. That's just some propaganda, blah, blah. Okay. So then it was like a year into Trump. I was like, dang, people hate this dude. Then it was like 2 years in, I was like, yo, because I promise you, I ain't gonna front 2016. And oh God, this is, like I said, this is one of those things that probably, I was like super MAGA. Like I wasn't like wearing my hat around doing that, but like, boy, you couldn't tell me nothing wrong. I had people leaving my cookouts because I was like, y'all don't like Trump, y'all got to go. You know what I mean? Like y'all not, you're not gonna talk. Yeah, y'all not gonna talk about my boy in my house. Y'all know I voted for this man. I support this man. Then y'all gonna come over here and be talking about him. He ain't no racist, man. Y'all know what he meant when he said both sides and blah blah blah. And then all of a sudden, it was like when I would say these things, I'm looking at like who's cheering me on, and I'm like, wait a minute, black people ain't agreeing with me. What's going on? And I start looking at the people who start coming in and like, yeah, say that. And I'm like, wait a minute, that ain't who I was trying to talk to. I'm trying to talk to my people. I'm not trying to talk to y'all. Y'all already know how y'all feel. And I'm trying to go save my people. Y'all worried about some dumb stuff. I ain't worried about this. And then it was like, maybe like I said, by the time I went to YBLS and I met Naomi and we got around the quote unquote, the neocons, the new version of what black conservative was going to be. And me and Naomi was like, yo, fuck this. We gotta do something else because these niggas is crazy. It was like, yo, we gonna go, you know what I'm saying? Because it was a situation where we understood how impressionable they were because it was a situation where we threw a party. And then all of a sudden it was like, yo, we heard y'all got alcohol and y'all having a little party up here. What's going on? Nah, y'all ain't really the type that we trying to really fuck with. So y'all got to kind of go to another. But it's cool, man. Go ahead and have a party on. But then it's like you started to see how impressionable these young people were and how they basically just fall in line and they like that rah-rah pep rally stuff. And I'm sitting there thinking to myself, like, I'm a grown-ass man. I don't need nobody. I want somebody to come out and talk to me. Like when I watched the Hotel Nations, to me, like that's a staple in my household every Thursday now. Like we watch Hotep Nation together because it's entertainment, it's fun, it's honest, and it's not like I feel like they're not telling me like we need y'all to become Hoteps, and if you ain't a Hotep, you ain't shit. You understand what I'm saying? It's like they tell you their opinions on the foolishness they see. Some stuff you agree with, some stuff you don't.
Right.
But even with the stuff I don't agree with, is a situation where I'm like, well, yeah, now that we got to religion, yeah, I know he's probably going to lose me now. But it's not like I had to be like, oh, I can't fuck with the Hoteps because, Hotep Jesus, how he going to call himself Hotep Jesus and I believe in Jesus? That's just, you know what I'm saying? But that's how people are. So I think that's what we need to start trying to gravitate for. And the right needs to do a better job of criticizing the right, because the funny thing about it is people love using, like, that's the only reason why Mitt Romney is relevant right now. Only because he goes against Trump. Because let me tell you who Mitt Romney was 2 years ago. Lindsey Graham. Right. Lindsey Graham was Mitt Romney 2 years ago because everybody hated Lindsey Graham in 2016, 2017. I can't even remember what was the turning point for Lindsey Graham. But Lindsey Graham was that everything Trump did was wrong. And everybody on the right and Republicans hated him. Then all of a sudden they're like, oh, I like what Lindsey's saying now that he's kind of sort of with Trump. But it shows you how impressionable people are. And it shows you how quickly the narrative can change on someone.
Yeah, I mean, and people on both sides can be fickle like that too. I mean, and it's frustrating on my side because I'm like you, like, especially lately, I'm going after my team a little bit more than I'm going against the left. I'm still going to hit the left. But at the same time, it's like there's a guy on Twitter who put it really nicely because he kind of does the same thing that we do. But he's like, when you see somebody else's kids acting up, you don't go and correct them because they're not your kids. They're not part of your family. But when it's your kids cutting up, then you're going to say something. So that's kind of the way I feel about it. And you're right. A lot of people are impressionable. And especially it's gotten so much worse now. And as much as I don't know. I mean, I can't blame Trump for this. This stuff was already in the making long before Trump. But when he came around, I mean, Trump is very persuasive. He's a master persuader. I mean, it's one the thing that I don't like about him, but this is one of the things that I admire. He's very good at what he does. Correct. And so people will defend every single thing that he does, every single thing that he says. And it is to the point to where, I mean, this is something you usually see on the left, where if you say something good about a conservative, then you're ostracized if you're progressive. Right. Okay, I'm sorry. I just want to we got some questions coming in for you, and they just want to get your opinion real quick. They said the first question is, do you support conservative values or conservative politicians? That was the first question. Values. If a conservative politician actually has conservative values, I'll support him. But I'm about the values. I mean, I always say it. I'm about principle over personality. I don't care who you are. I mean, I can like you personally, but if you don't have the values that I ascribe to, I'm not going to support you like that. And it's the same thing with Trump. Like, on the right, we have this thing to where you either hate him or love him. No, that's not true. With Trump, I call balls and strikes. You'll never see me in a MAGA hat because I will never be that way with any politician ever, because I don't really trust. If you're a politician, again, even if I like you personally, I don't trust you because you are in a position of power. And you're supposed to work for me, but you know how government is. But when Trump does something good, I'll call that out. I'll praise it. When he does something I don't think is good, I'll call that out too. All right, cool. You got a second question that says, what do you see for Black conservatives for Trump? After Trump? Oh, I see it too. Wow. That's I'm sorry. I said that wrong. What do you see for Black conservatives after Trump? I was saying like Black conservatives for Trump. Sorry, I messed that up. No, that's fine. I think you'll see a lot of them disappear. Maybe not all of them, maybe not most of them, but I think a lot of them are going to disappear. They're going to be gone because they're not really about politics per se. They're more about the personality. I'm not sure where Black conservatism is going to go after Trump is gone. I know where I would like it to go, but I think if nothing changes, it's just going to go back to the way it was before Trump. I mean, I think there's a lot of things that Trump has changed that will probably stay changed for the near future. But honestly, again, if it stays the way it does now, the right is very inept when it comes to relating to minorities. So they're going to go back to business as usual. That's one thing that I want to change. Yeah, I feel like we just fall back into the same little insignificant, not really whatever we were before. I think that Naomi says after 2020, what's the probability that either of you will vote red or continue to vote red if thing?
I can just speak for myself. I'm not if things remain the same. I have no problem because, like I said, I live in a Democratic district, so I have no problem voting for a Democrat because it's not that big of a deal to me because my vote is representing either A, me going against the incumbent, or B, me going and actually supporting. I'm actually trying to get more active in getting better candidates elected versus just, voting blue. Because if you're in a blue district and there's not a Republican to vote for, I normally don't just vote for the Republicans just because I think like John Lewis, he had an opponent in 2016, but it was 280,000 votes to like 40. So it wasn't even close. So when you look at would I vote Republican just to vote Republican? No. Would I vote Democrat just to vote Democrat? No. I'm trying to go where I will even vote the independent just to make a statement saying neither one of you will get my vote and neither one of you will get my platform. Neither one of you will get my voice because I feel like we're getting to a point now where both parties are perfectly fine ignoring black people. And conservatives say, well, they do no. Conservatives, when they talk about we're pro Second Amendment, we know who they're talking to. When people say they're pro-choice, they know who they're talking to. When they say we're for the rights of all people, we know who those people are talking to. And when we say we're about conservative values, of course, you know who they're talking to. So I think we've got to be able to move outside that box and be able to, do some things. Devin Jones says, how many more years of Brexit? I don't even know if it's going to get through this year, to be honest with you. I say 2. If Trump wins, they'll have another 4 years. But if Trump doesn't win, it's gonna dissolve in 2021, is my opinion. Because they're not going to have any. They're not going to be able to say anything.
Yeah, I mean, I think Brexit will be gone either way. If Trump wins, then they have no reason to exist anymore. They're all about Trump. They're not really about the GOP and about conservatism. So I'd say, like you did, maybe another 2 years. If Trump doesn't win, then, I mean, obviously they're gone. I mean, because they're not really, they're mostly about Trump and the presidential election at the federal level. They don't focus locally or on the state.
On local elections, correct. Yeah. So like I said, I'm just I'm gonna give you the floor. I want you to just basically kind of just give, I guess, your closing remarks for the night and kind of say what maybe you would like to see, what you'd like to see more of, less of, and then actually give, your so people can follow you on Twitter, give your things, and then I'm gonna close it out because we got about 2 minutes.
Okay. Oh, put me on the spot. Let's see. I would say whether you're on the left or on the right or somewhere in the middle, look at the principles that you adhere to. Don't just focus on the person that's saying them. You might personally like the person, but in general, I would say focus more on your principles, but also even more than that. And I think most of us already like this, but be willing to give people on the other side the benefit of the doubt. I think there's 2 types of people with this. The first type is the other person on the other side is evil until they prove me wrong. The second type is the person on the other side is decent and well-meaning, and I'm going to believe that until they prove me wrong. Be the second person. Because for the most part, most people have good intentions. They want what's best for the country. And if you're able to sit down and have a civil conversation, then we can make progress. If you want to persuade people, the best way to do it is by having that relationship and that conversation. Somebody I admire, Daryl Davis. He's the black guy who converted people from the KKK by befriending them, which is I couldn't do it, but it's incredible. He always says, if 2 enemies or 2 people on opposite sides are talking, they're not fighting. So I think that's what's important here, and that's kind of what we want to foster. Even if it gets heated, we still talk and we still have a level of respect. As far as where to reach me, I'm on Twitter at Jeff on the Right. You can read my stuff on redstate.com and on libertynation.com. And every Sunday, me, James Chief, and Roderick Threets, we do the Black Roundtable podcast. So that's every Sunday evening that would be at 8 o'clock Eastern Standard.
Okay. Well, like I said, once again, I want to thank my good friend Jeff Charles for joining us tonight. My take in about 20 seconds or less is basically this. The Republican Party has a job to do, and they've been doing a bad job of it since they freed the slaves. The bottom line is, if you want to claim to be the party that freed the slaves, then you need to do something towards the people who you free. You can't just freed us and then let us go about. And then now they all vote Democrat. Let me tell you why. Because at least the Democrats at least mention them. At least the Democrats said it's okay for y'all to be black. At least the Democrats say, hey, look, we might not be the best fit for you, but we better than what they're doing over here. So now you can get absolutely zero services, and it's still better than what the Republicans are offering. So I think the Republicans need to sit back and think of that. But my name is Saul G, and this has been the Aftermath, and everybody have a blessed weekend.
Hey, yo. I feel like talking my shit. I feel like talking my shit. I feel like talking my shit. I feel like. I feel like talking my shit. Ay.